are global in their nature. Climate change cannot be solved in one country, but it's got to be solved by the world working together. A financial crisis, just as we've seen, could not be solved by America alone or Europe alone. It needed the world to work together. Take the problems of security and terrorism and equally the problem of human rights and development. They cannot be solved by Africa alone. They cannot be solved by America or Europe alone. We cannot solve these problems unless we work together. So the great project of our generation, it seems to me, is to build for the first time, out of a global ethic and our global ability to communicate and organize together, a truly global society built on that ethic, but with institutions that can serve that global society and make for a different future. And we have now and are the first generation with the power to do this. Take climate change. Is it not absolutely scandalous that we have a situation where we know that there is a climate change problem, where we know also that that will mean that we will have to give more resources to the poorest countries to deal with that, when we want to create a global carbon market, but there is no global institution that people have been able to agree upon to deal with this problem. And one of the things that's got to come out of Copenhagen in the next few months is an agreement that there will be a global environmental institution that is able to deal with the problems of persuading the whole of the world to move along a climate change agenda. And one of the reasons why an institution is not in itself enough is that we have got to persuade people around the world to change their behavior as well. So you need that global ethic of fairness and responsibility across the generations. Take the financial crisis. If people in poor countries can be hit by a crisis that starts in New York or starts in the subprime market of the United States of America, if people can find that that subprime product has been transferred across nations many, many times until it ends up in banks in Iceland or in the rest of Britain, and people's ordinary savings are affected by it, then you cannot rely on a system of national supervision. You need, in the long run, for stability, for economic growth, for jobs, as well as for financial stability, global economic institutions that make sure that growth to be sustained has to be shared and are built on the principle that the prosperity of this world is indivisible. So another challenge for our generation is to create global institutions that reflect our ideas of fairness and responsibility, not the ideas that were at the basis of the last stage of financial development over these recent years. And then take development and take the partnership we need between our countries and the rest of the world, the poorest part of the world. We do not have the basis of a proper partnership for the future. And yet, out of people's desire for a global ethic and a global society, that can be done. I've just been talking to the president of Sierra Leone. This is a country, 6.5 million people, but it has only 80 doctors. It has 200 nurses. It has 120 midwives. You cannot begin to build a healthcare system for 6 million people with such limited resources. Or take the girl I met when I was in Tanzania, a girl called Miriam. She was 11 years old. Her parents had both died from AIDS, her mother and then her father. She was an AIDS orphan being handed across different extended families to be cared for. She herself was suffering from HIV. She was suffering from tuberculosis. I met her in a field. She was ragged. She had no shoes. When you looked in her eyes, any girl at the age of 11 is looking forward to the future. But there was an unreachable sadness in that girl's eyes. And if I could have translated that to the rest of the world for that moment, I believe that all the work that is done for the Global HIV/AIDS Fund would be rewarded by people being prepared to make donations. But we must then build a proper relationship between the richest and the poorest countries based on our desire that they are able to fend for themselves with the investment that is necessary in their agriculture so that Africa is not a net importer of food, but Africa is a net exporter of food. And take the problems of human rights and the problems of security in so many countries around the world. Burma is in chains. Zimbabwe is a human tragedy. Sudan, thousands of people have died unnecessarily for wars that we could prevent. In the Rwanda Children's Museum, there is a photograph of a 10-year-old boy. And the Children's Museum is commemorating the lives that were lost in the Rwandan genocide when 1 million people died. And there is a photograph of a boy called David. And beside that photograph, there is the information about his life. And it said, David, age 10. David, ambition to be a doctor. Favorite sport, football. What he enjoyed most, making people laugh. How he died, tortured to death. Last words said to his mother, who was also tortured to death, don't worry, the United Nations are coming. And we never did. And that young boy believed our promises that we would help people in difficulty in Rwanda, and we never did. So we have got to create in this world also institutions for peacekeeping and humanitarian aid, but also for reconstruction and security for some of the conflict-ridden states of the world. So my argument today is basically this. We have the means by which we can create a truly global society. The institutions of this global society can be created by our endeavors. That global ethic can infuse the fairness and responsibility that is necessary for these institutions to work. But we should not lose the chance in this generation, in this decade in particular, with President Obama in America, with other people working with us around the world, to create global institutions for the environment and for finance and for security and for development that make sense of our responsibility to other peoples, our desire to bind the world together, and the need to tackle problems that everybody knows exist. It's said in ancient Rome that when Cicero spoke to his audiences, people used to turn to each other and say about Cicero, great speech. But it's said that in ancient Greece, when Demosthenes spoke to his audiences, people turned to each other and didn't say great speech. They said, let's march. We should be marching towards a global society. Thank you.